Hello, I think we are up and live. Good day to everyone, Sir Howard here. How's everyone doing? It's been a while bago ako nakapag-upload ng bagong episode in our series on the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. So for today, we're going to talk about another chapter from the book, The Law of Pain. Again, yung mga first time pa lang na nakapanood ng episode na to, everything I'm saying here is based on John Maxwell's book on 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. I highly recommend for those of you who are interested in personality development, spirituality, or even in motivation, magandang libro na basahin ito by John Maxwell. I highly recommend that everyone should read this. So anyway, today we're going to focus on his chapter on the law of pain where he mentions good management of bad experiences leads to great growth. Let me repeat, good management of bad experiences leads to great growth. So the main factor na pinag-uusapan in this chapter by Maxwell on the law of pain is bad experiences. So pareho lang yung salitang pain at saka yung bad experiences in the chapter of John Maxwell. So whenever you have bad experiences, that's equivalent to pain. But what do you mean by pain? What do you mean by bad experiences? These are different events that led you to feel negative emotions. So paano mo malalaman kung nagkaroon ka ng pain o ng bad experience kapag nakakaalala ka ng mga events in your life that led you to feel certain negative emotions such as you can see, guilt, grief, fear, shame, envy, despair, all of these negative emotions, if it comes from an event that led you to experience these negative emotions, that is counted as a bad experience or pain in the language of John Maxwell. So with this, meron akong konting exercise dito. I want you to recall the last time or the most recent moment in your life where you think you experienced a bad event or a bad experience or a pain. So when was the last time you experienced pain in your life? Recall what happened, how did you react in that bad experience, and then what happened after that bad experience. So yung mga nare-recall nyo ngayon, yung mga nabivisualize nyo ngayon inside your heads, in the language of John Maxwell, those are called pains. Okay? So what's the point of the chapter? Why are we even talking about bad experiences or pain? Because John Maxwell believes that one of the things, one of the skills that we need to develop para magkaroon talaga tayo ng growth is how we manage bad experiences. Let me repeat, how we manage bad experiences. It is a very important psychological skill if we want to grow as individuals. Marunong tayong mag-handle ng maayos ng ating mga bad experiences or pain. So before we talk about the specific steps kung paano ba i-handle ng maayos yung mga pains natin, John Maxwell discussed some basic principles to remember when we deal with pain or bad experiences in general. Number one, according to John Maxwell, we have to start with the understanding that everyone has pain. Everyone has bad experiences. We've had it before, and maybe for some of us, we are having it right now. Walang tao ang hindi pa naka-experience ng pain or ng bad experiences. And the reason is we are living in a corrupt world. Lagay ko lang dito, corrupt world. That's the main reason why people are in a lot of pain today because we are living in a corrupt and a fallen world. In fact, Jesus Himself, siya na mismo nagsabi niyan, no? Jesus Himself is life. Siya ang gumawa ng buhay, siya ang gumawa ng mundo. Siya na nga ang nagsabi, in this world, you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. From the creator of the world himself, he's the one saying that we will have a lot of troubles and pains in this life. Kasi nga, because of sin, because of selfishness, people do selfish things every day, sinful things every day. As a result, hindi talaga maiiwasan that we will experience different troubles and pains in our life. And so, according to John Maxwell, given number one, that everyone has pain, kinakailangan, the appropriate response for this is we need to expect pain every day. Hindi na tayo dapat nasusurprise when we experience pain. Kasi nga, since we are living in a fallen world, tayo mismo meron tayong fallen nature because of our sinfulness. No wonder we will encounter a lot of situations in our life that will make us experience a lot of negative emotions. So, huwag na tayong magugulat dyan. Kasi, this is very important. Many people, they don't expect pain. They expect that everything will go out well in their lives. And that's not a good thing kasi kapag ini-expect mo na walang pain, tapos biglang merong pain, you end up being disappointed. Parang yung analogy ko dito is, ini-expect mo na hindi aaraw bukas. Diba? Can you imagine the disappointment that you will feel every day if you always expect that the sun will not go up tomorrow? Parte talaga ng buhay na may araw tuwing umaga. So to save yourself from disappointment of seeing the sun every morning, what you do, you adjust. You expect that the sun will always rise in the morning. So ganun din, no, in connection to what I'm saying here, pain is part of our everyday life because of, again, this corrupt world, because of the fallen nature of man. Huwag na tayong mag-expect na hindi tayo magkakaroon ng pain. We need to expect it. Kasi kapag hindi natin ine-expect yan, we will just end up being disappointed. And what's more, to further convince you that you need to expect this, si Jesus nga mismo He's the most perfect human being that ever lived. Meron na nga siyang divine nature. Punong-puno ng trouble yung buhay niya. Punong-puno ng pain yung buhay niya. Ikaw pa kaya? Who is just a mere mortal, full of sin. Having a fallen nature, what more? Mas lalo mo dapat i-expect that you will encounter a lot of pain as long as you live in this world. So we start there, no? Everyone has pain, and pain can come to us every moment as long as we are alive. Number two, another principle that John Maxwell taught about pain is no one likes pain. I think this is very commonsensical, but we really need to process this. Wala naman talagang tao ang gusto lagi, meron siyang pain. I mean, no one in his right mind will pray to God na sana araw-araw bigyan siya ng maraming pain because as much as possible, we want to be comfortable. Ayaw nating nakakaranas tayo ng mga negative emotions because it does not feel good. But again, given that no one likes pain, the common response of people when it comes to pain is people tend to undo and to prevent the pain, the possible pain that they will have. Maraming ganyang tao. Ginagawa yung lahat ng paraan, ginagamit yung kanilang buong katalinuhan para makaiwas doon sa pain that life is giving. And the question is how? How do they do this? How do they undo or how do they prevent the pain that life is giving? According to Dennis Hooley, ayusin lang natin to One author, Dennis Hooley, said, expecting the world to treat you fairly just because you're a good person is a little like expecting the bull not to charge you because you are a vegetarian. So in connection to the quote by Dennis, how do people prevent pain? By being good people. I think that idea is very common among a lot of people today. Meron silang very wrong principle on how to prevent pain. They believe that by being good people, by doing good things to others, life will reward them with a painless life. Only to find out later on that they are wrong and that they end up being disappointed. Hindi nadadaan sa pagiging mabuting tao o sa paggawa ng mga mabubuting bagay yung pag-iwas sa pain. Kasi nga wala naman talagang paraan on how we can totally eliminate pain. So the response here in connection to what Dennis is saying here is good deeds won't exempt you from pain. Stop expecting that by being a good person, by doing good things to others, you will be spared from pain. Again, we go back to Jesus himself. Ang bait-bait na ng tao ni Jesus. Napakaganda ng connection niya with other people. He treated people right. But did that exempt him from the pains caused by people around him? The answer is no. Okay? So please don't do that as a habit. Yung may paniniwala kang by doing good things, by being a good person, by being close to God, you will be experiencing no pain because that is your reward. That will simply not happen. Ulitin ko, as long as you are living in this world, as long as you are in the sinful nature, you will always experience pain. And last one, number 3, very few people try to benefit from the pain. Let me repeat. Very few people try to benefit from the pain. Bakit maraming mga tao hindi sila nakakakuha ng magandang bagay from the pain that they are experiencing? Because of our tendency to forget and to move on from the pain. Madalas kasi kapag meron tayong nararanasang mga bad experiences or pains, we try our best to forget the pain, to suppress the pain, to run away from the pain. We drown ourselves with entertainment, we drown ourselves with work, hoping that those things will help us forget the pain or speed up getting away from that pain. According to John Maxwell, that pattern it's not good. Kapag nasa gitna daw tayo ng pain, hindi natin dapat fast forward. Hindi natin dapat sinusuppress. Hindi natin dapat dinideny. Because when we do, when we forget, when we try to move away from the pain, what happens is, nagkakaroon tayo ng double black eye. Luging-lugi tayo when we do that pattern. Paano tayo nalulugi? Well, we get nothing from the pain that we experience. Unang-una, naranasan mo yung pain which is not good for our emotions. Number 2, wala ka pang lesson na natutunan. Kasi hindi mo fini-face off yung pain eh. Hindi mo pinoproseso yung pain. So, wala tayong napapala. Nakaranas ka na nga ng pain, hindi ka pa nakakuha ng magandang lesson. Wala ka pang napala. So, that's double black eye. So it's not good for us to have that kind of response whenever we are in the midst of pain. So those are the 3 basic principles to remember when we deal with pain. Now John Maxwell teaches us what are the things that we need to do on how to turn pain into gain, which is again a very important psychological skill. How do you gain something from the pains that you are currently experiencing? Number 1, if you want to develop this skill, you need to learn how to see pain as making you better. We start with the right perspective. It has something to do with the way you see pain. You have 2 choices according to Maxwell. You can either see pain as making you bitter or pain making you better. There is a difference. When you see pain as something that is bitter, you are focusing on the negative emotions caused by the pain. Doon ka laging nakafocus. Yun yung laging laman ng awareness mo. Yung mga hindi magagandang emotions na nararamdaman ko ngayon. Because of this pain, nalulungkot ako. Because of this pain, naiinis ako. Because of this pain, I'm so frustrated. And so these negative emotions eat you alive. You end up being a bitter person. But when you see pain as something that makes you better, you are not focusing on the negative emotions that you are feeling, although they exist, although you feel it, pero hindi doon ang focus mo. Ang focus mo is more on the good things that you can learn from this pain that you are currently experiencing. But for you to get principle number 1, seeing the pain as something that can make you better, you really have to believe on the truth that there is always something positive in negative situations that you are in. Dapat magkaroon tayo ng ganong skill na kahit ano pang negative situation yung dinaranas natin ngayon, we have the ability to see the good things in spite or in the midst of those negative situation. That is a very important psychological skill. Hinahanapan mo na maganda, yung pangit na nangyayari sa'yo. Because when you do, okay, let me present to you this framework. Ganito ang difference kasi niyan eh. When you see pain as something negative, look at what happens to you. Pinapataas mo lang yung negative emotions mo at bumabagsak yung iyong resilience, which is what you need in the midst of that pain. You need resilience. You need the ability to bounce back. But when you see pain as something positive, you see it as something that can make you better, hindi masyadong tumataas yung negative emotions mo. Although again, meron pa rin. Pero hindi ganun katindi. It does not take over your awareness. And as a result, you can now concentrate your psychological resources to create high levels of resilience. Mas tumitibay ka. Which is again what you need whenever you are in the midst of negative situation. Diba? But again, whether this will happen to you or this will happen to you really depends on how you see pain. Do you see pain as something negative or do you see pain as something positive? Okay? So if you want to develop that skill of seeing pain as something that is good, you really need to see the good things in the midst of a pain or in the midst of a negative experience. T.D. Jakes, a pastor, ang ganda nung sinabi niya about how we can see the difficulties that we are having right now. A setback is a setup for a comeback. So yung setback, nakita mo siya as a setup for a comeback. It's your choice if you see it that way. Some people see a setback as a rejection from God. A setback means I'm not good. A setback means I'm not competent. A setback means I'm useless. You see, those are two different ways of seeing a setback. It's either you see it as something negative or something positive. But I like better how the Bible teaches this principle. In James chapter 1 verses 2 to 3, it says, consider it pure joy whenever you have trials. So kapag may trials ka, anong gagawin mo? Hanapan mo ng maganda. Bakit? Ano ba yung maganda na pwede nating makuha whenever we are undergoing trials? You continue reading the passage. Because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Yun yung maganda. Whenever you are encountering trials, hanapan mo ng maganda. This trial can make you or can develop in you the value of perseverance. That is why whenever you see the good in the midst of the bad, it will change the way you react to those negative things or to those pains that you are experiencing. Kaya nga sinabi dito, consider it pure joy. Paano ka magiging joyful kapag meron kang trials when you know that for every trial that you encounter, there are good things to look forward to, such as the development of your personality or your character to become a better person. Diba? So kung ilalagay natin to sa isang psychological framework, it looks something like this. James 1, 2 to 3 is supporting this framework. There is a negative experience that you encounter, but your perception about that negative experience or pain is very positive. You look forward to something good in it, and as a result, instead of being bitter, it develops in you perseverance, which is good. Diba? So again, paano ka magkakaroon ng ganyang framework when you see pain as something positive? When you look for good things in the midst of negative experiences. So how can we apply this principle number 1 that Maxwell is teaching us? Let's apply this with COVID-19. Diba? I mean, a lot of us talagang we consider this pandemic as a negative experience. The key question to ask ourselves if we are going to apply number 1 is, how is COVID-19 building us up? Okay? Maraming mga negative things na nangyari. Maybe nawalan ka ng trabaho or namatayan ka ng mahal sa buhay. Again, these are bad things. These are valid things. It's okay to feel bad with these things. But then again, what good things can we search? Can we see in the midst of COVID-19? Kasi laging meron at meron yan. And our ability to see the good things in the midst of the bad will determine how much growth we will experience in the midst of difficult situations. Okay, so that's for number one, seeing the pain as making you better. Next, number two, another way that we can do for us to gain something out of our pains is we need to process the pain. We need to process the pain. Sa psychology, pag sinabi mong process, it is a cognitive thing. Ibig sabihin dapat pinag-iisipan mo o pinoproseso mo yung pain na nararanasan mo at the moment. That is why, as I mentioned a while ago, if you remember, it's a wrong response to deny the pain, to run away from the pain, or to be indifferent from the pain. But many people do that eh. Tuwing merong pain na pinagdaraanan, ayaw nila masyadong pinag-iisipan. Ayaw nilang masyadong pinag-uusapan. As much as possible, act normally as if there's no pain. According to Maxwell, that is a wrong response. Instead of denying the pain, what we need to do when we have these pains, according to Maxwell, is we need to be asking questions. So, kapag meron kang pain or negative experience sa pinagdaraanan, hindi ka dapat umiiyak. Hindi ka dapat nagrereklamo. The main activity that you need to be doing while you are undergoing a pain is you are asking key questions. Such as what? What led to this? Bakit ba nangyari itong negative situation na to sa akin? Ano ba yung mga antecedents? In psychology, we call that antecedents that led me to this negative situation. How am I taking this negative situation? Am I doing the right thing? Am I reacting correctly in this negative situation? Number three, what positive can I see from this? That's point number one. Yes, I'm in a negative situation, but the truth is, kahit gaano ka-negative pa yung situation, there will always be something positive in this negative situation. What are those? Number four, what lesson can I learn from this negative situation? After this is all over, ano yung aral na pwede kong matutunan from this? And number five, which is I think the most important question that you need to ask and answer, what changes should I make after I overcome this pain? After I overcome this negative experience. Those words are very important. Changes and make. Kasi yung numbers 1 to 4, very cognitive yan eh. Ito yung mga bagay na iniisip mo from numbers 1 to 4. But for number 5, this is where you begin to be behavioral. Ano na ngayon yung gagawin mo? Ano ngayon yung mga adjustments na gagawin mo after you experience this this pain that you are currently undergoing. Diba? So, yan yung mga key questions talaga na dapat natin tinatanong while we are in the midst of this pain. Alright? Kasi yung mga sagot na makukuha natin from these questions will be very crucial whether or not we will benefit from the pain or not. So yung mga tao na hindi nagbe-benefit sa pain, bakit sila hindi nag-benefit from the pain? Bakit wala silang napala in the midst of their pain? Because they were not asking these questions. Hindi sila nagre-reflect, hindi nila pinag-iisipan yung pain that they were undergoing. So nung lumipas na yung pain, wala silang natutunan. They just remember the negative emotions that they had, but in terms of lessons that they have learned that they can use in the future, none, because they did not process the pain. And also, in terms of processing the pain, ihabol ko lang dito, according to Maxwell, it is always better to process the pain with someone. It must be a social activity. Hindi maganda na pinoproseso mo lang yung pain mag-isa because sometimes, while you are in the midst of the pain, masyado kang emotional. And high emotions will negatively affect your ability to really cognitively or rationally process the negative experience that you are undergoing. Kung baga sa Tagalog, mahirap masagot yung mga tanong na yan kapag masyado kang emotional. 'Di ba? Kasi nga, remember, because you are undergoing a pain, negative emotions will emerge and those negative emotions will cloud your judgment, will cloud your thinking into answering these very important questions. And that is the benefit kapag meron kang kasamang nagpoproseso nung negative experience mo. Kasi dahil may kasama ka, that is already a big help to pacify the negative emotion that you are experiencing because you can sense support. Kapag may nasa-sense kang support, yung negative emotions mo bababa yan, and that person can help you become more rational in processing the negative experience that you are having. So dapat meron ka talagang go-to person, whether that's your significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, best friend, teacher, whoever, na itong taong ito, yung role niya sa buhay mo, isasamahan ka talaga niya na mag-process ng mga pains that you are currently undergoing. Okay? So, let me just quote to you what John Maxwell said about this. I've never known anyone who said, I love problems, but I've known many who have admitted that their greatest gains come in the middle of their pain. Their greatest gains came in the middle of their pain. Pero, meron tong condition eh. Paano sila nagkaroon ng gain in the midst of their pain? Because not all people are like that. Some people just undergo the pain without gain. So what spells the difference between those who undergo pain and gained something and those people who underwent pain and gained nothing? The difference is, again, going back to what I'm saying here, those people who gained something out of their pain, they processed the pain appropriately. They ask themselves key questions while in the midst of the pain. I think a good example to support what John Maxwell is saying here is the story by Thomas Edison. Kung naalala nyo, I think in my previous episodes, kinuwento ko to, when he was in the process of inventing the light bulb, he was undergoing a lot of pain. Kasi ang dami niyang mga palpak na mga experiments to make the light bulb work. So can you imagine, every time that he fails, masakit sa emotions yan eh. 'Di ba, lalo na kapag inventor ka, no, na-frustrate ka siguro, nalulungkot ka, naiinis ka, so on and so forth. Now, one day, one of his assistants ni Thomas Edison, nilapitan si Mr. Edison and sabi niya, with all due respect, sir, can we just stop trying making this light bulb work and just move on to other projects? Because it's really getting very frustrating. Ang dami-dami na nating mga paraan na ginawa, thousands of different ways, no, na ginawa para pailawin yung light bulb, and yet it is not lighting up. So can we just move on to other projects? When Thomas Edison heard this, medyo talagang pinagsabihan niya talaga yung assistant na yon, no? Because the way Thomas Edison saw his pain is very different. Ang sabi ni Thomas Edison, it is not true that we have failed 1,000 times in making this light bulb work, because I have learned 1,000 different ways how not to make a light bulb. I have learned 1,000 different ways on how not to make a light bulb. So, ibig sabihin nun, habang pumapalpak yung mga experiments ni Edison to make the light bulb work, what was he doing? Without the assistant knowing, Thomas Edison was asking lots of questions. He was taking notes. So, sa bawat attempt na pinailaw niya yung light bulb na pumalpak, Thomas Edison, even if he feels bad for a failed experiment, he asks himself those questions. What lesson can I learn? Bakit kaya pumalpak? He was taking all those notes. So you can only imagine ang daming notes ni Thomas Edison. Kung 1,000 different ways yung pumalpak na ginawa niya, and lahat yon talagang tinatanong niya yung mga questions na yan, ang daming laman ng notebook ni Thomas Edison. But that's fine, you know why? Because all those learnings that he had from his failed attempts to light the light bulb enabled him one day, boom, to finally successfully light a light bulb. Diba? Hindi niya mapapailaw yung light bulb na yan kung wala siyang mga lessons na natutunan. And those lessons, he got it from what? From processing all the pains that he had while making the light bulb work. Alright? That's a very good example on how principle number 2 can be applied. Let's process the pains that we are having. And last one, number three, another way to really gain something from our pain is, again, we go back to our cognition. We need to see our pains in God's perspective. We need to see the pain in God's perspective. We should remember na ang Diyos, whenever He allows pain in our life, hindi niya ginagawa yon to make fun of us. Hindi niya ginagawa yon para kasi natutuwa siya that we are in pain, na hindi tayo makatulog, na nababad trip tayo, no? He's not like that. The reason why He is allowing pain to be experienced by us is because He knows that those pain can make us better. We can learn lessons from those pains that can make us better. I think the best Bible passage to support that is my life verse, Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. If you see pain that way, in a godly perspective, that every pain that we encounter, God is allowing it for our own good. Maybe we cannot see it right now, but the goodness that is brought by this pain will be experienced in the future. Talagang mag-iiba yung perspective mo sa pain. Mawawala yung bitterness mo whenever you experience the pains. I think one good example of this in the Old Testament is Joseph the dreamer. I mean, he was sold by his brothers, 'di ba? Kasi yung mga brothers niya naiinggit sa kanya. He was sold to the Egyptians, and to make the long story short, ang daming mga negative experiences ni Joseph in the Old Testament. But in spite of all those negative experiences and pains he encountered, towards the end of the story, when finally he saw again the brothers who sold him, wala siyang any sense of bitterness. You know why? Because while Joseph was undergoing all those negative experiences and pain, he had a godly perspective of those pains that he underwent. How did he see the pain? Or how did he see the negative experiences he had? Genesis 50:20 reveals how Joseph was thinking all this time that he was undergoing the pain. You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. Yung konteksto nito, sinabi niya to sa mga kapatid niya when finally he reveals to them that he is the Joseph that they sold to the Egyptians. He had all the reasons to be bitter, right? Pero bakit wala siyang sense of bitterness dito? Kasi nga, the way he saw his negative experiences, the way he saw all his pains, very godly ang perspective. That all these things God is allowing to happen to me because He has a plan for me. And true enough, ano ba yung naging plano ng Diyos sa kanya? Bakit ba kinailangan niya i-undergo lahat ng pains na yon? Because God was preparing him to be the leader of Egypt. Because he will play a very important role in helping people manage an incoming famine. All of these things, di ba? That will not happen. He will not be the leader. He will not be where he is right now if God will not allow, or if God did not allow all those pains that he experienced. So ganun din tayo, no? Whenever we are undergoing pains, struggles, negative experiences, we keep in mind that these things God is allowing for us to experience because He has a very good plan for us. Okay? So that's how you gain something from the pain. In summary, paano tayo makakakuha ng something from the pains we are experiencing? Number one, we need to start with changing our perspective about pain. Pain is not 100% bad, but we can always benefit something. We can always get a benefit from the pains, from the negative experiences. Every negative experiences has the potential to make us a better person. Number two, we need to think, we need to ask questions while we are in the midst of pain. Imbis na magreklamo tayo, imbis na mainis tayo sa Diyos, imbis na magsisi tayo ng ibang tao, we take notes. We ask questions about the pain that we are currently experiencing. And I have given you those key questions that you need to be asking. Kaya dapat meron talaga kayong pain notebook or negative experience notebook that whenever you are undergoing pain, you answer those questions I have given you above in that notebook para meron kayong mga matututunan in the midst of the pain that you are experiencing. And of course, number 3, see God's perspective. 'Di ba? You need to see what's happening to you in the heavenly perspective. Every time that you are undergoing a pain or any form of difficulty, what should you do? You really need to ask yourself, what is the good plan that God has for me? If you see it that way, magko-contribute yan sa positive emotion mo while you are undergoing the pain. Hindi ganun kasama yung loob mo. Hindi ganun kasama yung loob mo in undergoing the pain because you know that God's intention for allowing this pain in your life, you can look forward na merong magandang mangyayari. Alright? So that's how the law of pain goes according to John Maxwell. Again, good management of bad experiences leads to great growth. And how do you manage bad experiences? Going back to my summary, change of perspective, think or ask question in the midst of pain, and see the pain in God's perspective. I hope this video was able to help you have a better perspective of pain. If you find this video helpful and if you know anyone who you think kailangan niya marinig yung video na ito, you have my permission to share this. Until next time, thank you everyone. Sir Howard here. God bless. Bye-bye.